REDS, relative energy deficiency in sport. What is it? Who is at risk? What are the symptoms or consequences of it? And if you have it or think you have it, what are the steps to recover? I'm Lindsey Elizabeth Cortez, registered dietitian, sports dietitian, female athlete nutrition specialist. And in my work over years, I have helped hundreds of athletes recover from REDS, and I hope hundreds more prevent RED from ever happening. So if you're curious to learn about REDS, then let's watch this video. I'm going to link in the comments section a plethora of resources that I have about REDS, because I've actually been talking about this for years, especially on the Female Athlete Nutrition podcast. I have some episodes specifically dedicated to it. Actually, episode number 2. That's what I mean. I've been talking about this from the beginning. Episode number 2 is titled, What is RED? And episode 110 was with myself and another sports dietitian, Jenna, whom I was working under me. And we kind of talked about REDS from our perspective as sports dietitians who are actively helping people heal from it. And sprinkled in guest episodes with other professionals, with other dietitians, with other athletes, I've talked about REDS as well. So please go check out those resources, as well as my website, lindseycortez.com/REDS has resources for you as well. But I want to cut to the chase in this video. So what is REDS? Relative energy deficiency in sport. This condition has likely existed for a long time. However, that term was just created and established in 2014. The International Olympic Committee published a paper in the British Journal of Sports Medicine to kind of put together all of these physiological and some psychological symptoms that athletes experience where the root problem is energy deficiency compared to your sport need. So people think energy deficiency, they kind of automatically think under eating. And yes, that might be true, but it's all relative to what your body needs for sport. So this doesn't have to be like, oh, she's only eating 1,000 calories a day, or oh, she's anorexic, which is possible. But it could be that somebody actually is eating 2,500 calories a day, maybe even 3,000. But if their sport needs are higher, their needs to keep up with the demands of exercise, of competition, of daily training, of 2-a-days, plus living their life. Maybe they work on their feet. Maybe they walk across campus. Maybe they lift heavy children all day long. There's so much other stuff that people are doing physically, even outside of sport. Maybe those needs are even higher. So you might be eating 3,000 calories, but if your needs are 4,000, then that's an energy deficit of 1,000 calories. You hear me on that? So what happens if we're in an energy deficit? Most people just think, well, you lose weight. Well, what if the body isn't in a place where it wants to or needs to lose weight, or where it might be unhealthy or unwise to lose weight? And these are things that you might not rationally know, but the body's keeping score and the body is protecting itself. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the symptoms that are experienced in REDS is your body trying to save itself. But in saving itself, certain physiological processes are shut down. What do I mean by this? If you're going to show up and exercise every day, even though you don't quite have enough energy to support that, your body still shows up and gets the workout done. Like the weight is in front of you, the track's in front of you, and you're pushing your body. It puts whatever energy it has towards that exercise, even at the cost of, say, growth and development, even at the cost of, say, hormones, even at the cost of your bone health. So it will take whatever energy it can spare in order to get through that workout. And then, of course, you're an athlete. So what do? You show up again at your next workout and you do the same thing. So REDS is your body trying to survive, and the symptoms of it drastically vary. So let's talk about some of the symptoms. There are health detriments and there are performance detriments. Performance detriments are things like, oh, I'm actually not like getting bigger, faster, stronger. I'm not adapting to my training, or I have more sick days, more injured days. So you're going to see performance eventually decline. It doesn't always do that right away, because as I just mentioned, your body actually is trying to get through that workout, is trying to get through your practice, is trying to get through your season. So sometimes performance doesn't decline right away, but eventually it does. And the reason performance eventually declines is because your health is declining, because those things are being chipped away at slowly internally, your internal health. What does that look like? It could be your endocrine health, so where your hormones get disrupted. Estrogen, testosterone can all plummet, flatline, and also hormones like thyroid hormone, which affects your resting metabolic rate. So we can have metabolic dysfunction. We can have issues with low blood sugar, low insulin as well. So a lot of different hormones and blood biomarkers can be affected. Your actual gut health can be affected. So people with REDS tend to experience a lot more bloating, cramping, gas. We can see a little bit of everything. Some people have more constipation. Some people have more leaky gut because the gut microbiome is not being fully supported and is being altered. There can be a lot of bone injuries due to the low hormones like estrogen and testosterone. Then we can start to see poor bone mineral content, increased bone injuries, bone stress injuries, poor bone mineral density, increased osteoporosis, osteopenia. I mentioned testosterone and estrogen, so that's affecting your reproductive function. So that's not good. Other things within your metabolism, we can see higher cortisol, lower leptin. That affects your satiety levels. It affects your hunger, your fullness, your eating, your appetite regulation. This can start to affect our blood work. I mentioned some blood biomarkers can be off. We can actually see decreased iron absorption, increased inflammatory markers, including hepcidin, which interfere with iron absorption, which then affects our red blood cells, our hemoglobin, our hematocrit, our energy levels. We see disruption in sleep. This can be related to circadian rhythm, stress, cortisol. Then that obviously disrupts recovery, cardiovascular effects, decreased heart rate, decreased blood pressure, muscular effects of decreased muscle protein synthesis, your ability to actually build and create muscle, and also ability to restore and recover glycogen after workouts. Your immunity is affected. We see more sicknesses, upper respiratory tract infections, more sick days, decreased immune response. More recently, actually, some research has come out about an association between REDS and urinary incontinence. Exact reason, maybe not fully understood, but might have to do with our hormone levels as well. And also mental health. So we know food is fuel, not just for your body, but your brain. And then if we're in an energy deficient state, your brain health isn't being optimized. Things like your executive functioning skills, spatial awareness, memory can all be affected. And there's actual correlations between anxiety and depression and REDS as well. This is a lot, right? So it's pretty obvious that if all these internal health markers are declining, obviously we're going to see the performance detriments as well of I'm not building muscle, I'm not recovering from my training, I don't have enough energy. If you don't have iron and the good red blood cells and you're not recovering and you have more injuries and you're more sick, then you're not getting the training days in and then ultimately you can't be the best athlete that you could possibly be. And this is why it's tricky because athletes are the ones who are getting REDS because you're so focused on training and doing as much as you can do physically and pushing your body that you might not even really fully notice that these symptoms are happening internally. It's not like we have a daily gauge on our bone health or our hormonal health until we're already months long into the process. And it's like, oh, I have a bone injury, or oh, I skipped my period this month. These are some of your very first red flags that REDS should be considered or part of the discussion of, is this affecting you? Now, I want to be very clear that everything I just mentioned could be happening for reasons not associated to REDS. Urinary incontinence can happen from bladder dysfunction, after giving birth to children, from jumping too much, pelvic floor dysfunction. It could have nothing to do with energy availability. Low heart rate could be just because you are a very well-trained athlete. But there is a point where maybe this is too low, or it starts going lower than what your usual is, or it's super low, when you're sleeping overnight and it's a little scary, or it's super low all day long until you climb the stairs and then it skyrockets and you're like, what the heck? How come my body can't adapt to a stair climb when I'm a high-level athlete? But I digress. I'm trying to say that this could actually be other things going on, right? Maybe you're not recovering because you're not sleeping enough. And maybe that has nothing to do with REDS and it's just you need to get off your phone and go to sleep. Maybe you have hormone dysfunction for totally different reasons. For the men, you can explore that. I'm not the men's expert here. Funny enough, I used to be. I worked with an all population for a while, but it's been years since then. But for the women, like, oh, is this PCOS? Is this primary ovarian insufficiency? Is this perimenopause? Like, there could be other reasons to explore. So all of these symptoms of REDS, just because you have these things doesn't immediately mean you have REDS. But we often, as sports dietitians, say that REDS is a diagnosis of exclusion. If we can do an ultrasound, figure out you don't have PCOS, and look at the blood work and say, well, it's not, PCOS has certain blood work parameters versus low estrogen amenorrhea due to REDS has different blood work parameters. So we kind of rule out the other potential reasons and ultimately look at the root cause of REDS is energy deficiency. So that's where sports dietitian comes into play to say, what are your estimated needs? What are you consuming in? What are you taking in through food? And what are you expending out? And if there's a big gap or even a little gap, but it's been happening for a very long time, that's a sign of energy deficiency. And then your symptoms tell the story of how this is affecting you. All right, y'all, make sure this video is not an hour long, which I can easily make it be. And I have plenty of hour-long podcast episodes diving into this topic. I'm going to end it there. I need to get better at YouTube. I'm such a talker. I got to keep this short and to the point. So I told you what it is and what some of the consequences and symptoms are. So now who does it happen to? Well, it doesn't just happen to elite athletes. It can because you're training a lot, but it can also happen to a brand new athlete because you don't realize how much your body is expending as you engage in the sport. It also really often happens to high school athletes because maybe they've been kind of more recreational in their sport as they were a kid or preteen. And then suddenly we actually start doing sports, 3 sports year round or training at a higher level, or we really care about it. It's become a passion for us. It happens once again a lot between the transition from high school to college. That's a big jump. Maybe in high school, you're training 10, 15 hours a week, and suddenly in college, it's 20 hours a week and traveling and different eating. You're eating on your own now. So ultimately what I'm getting at is it's going to happen to athletes, but it can happen to athletes of any competitive level, any stage in their career, and any age as well. And it can happen because of that increased energy output, that increased exercise output, or because of a decreased intake. But the decreased intake could be intentional or unintentional. So I kind of mentioned between high school and college, we see a lot of decreased intake unintentionally because maybe in high school parents were providing food, and then suddenly we go to college and we don't have time, we don't know how to cook our own food, we don't have a good meal plan or a good dining hall, and accidentally don't eat enough. Some of us, that sounds crazy, but to others, it's like, oh yeah, that happened to me. Maybe we get so busy in our life, we just don't have time to prepare breakfast anymore. This happens unintentionally. But there's also the intentional, whether good or bad, of I didn't eat enough. So it could be somebody intentionally saying, I'm going to eat cleaner, eat healthier. And it's with good intention, but unfortunately might still not be enough when we start shifting to more clean ingredients. Maybe you're just not getting enough calories suddenly, and suddenly you're in this state of energy deficiency. And it could also be intentional, maybe from not such a good side of feeling this pressure to, lose weight or eat less, or this could be kind of disordered eating behaviors or even eating disorders. Definitely can correlate to REDS. There's a lot of overlap, a lot of jumbling in these topics here. So the undereating piece can happen unintentionally, and it could also happen intentionally. Even if your intentions were good, all of a sudden you have this bad outcome of REDS. Okay, if any of this is resonating with you and you're thinking, I wonder if I have REDS, or if you're like, I definitely have that, so what do I do about it? Here are some tips for your next steps. So there's not one way to diagnose REDS. However, we have some questions and things we can kind of put out there and figure out if this might be a concern. And this is not scientifically validated, but to help guide people, I have a resource on my website, lindseycortez.com/REDS, a little quiz with the questions to ask to see, are you maybe potentially at risk of REDS? And then if you are, we could talk about that, discuss further. I have resources on my website. I have a REDS recovery guide, $9.99, simple, $9.99, simple thing just to get you started with kind of understanding the basics, what to do about it, and some recipes, because ultimately if the core of it is needing more fuel to sustain your training, then we need some great recipes to help us in that. So your REDS recovery guide has some amazing recipes and sample meal plans. And you could also join my REDS recovery support group. I host a group call every Tuesday night for Q&A. If you have REDS, think you have REDS, or just want to learn more, you can join for a low-cost membership of $15 a month. This is not a replacement for medical care. And if you do need that, I can be a resource for you, or you can sign up for one-on-one coaching with me, as I've helped many athletes recover from REDS in the past through my coaching services. But this group membership is an amazing opportunity to get guidance, questions answered, get group support to help you in your journey to REDS recovery. So again, lindseycortez.com/REDS has everything. First, start with your REDS quiz to see if your symptoms are possibly in alignment with the symptoms of REDS. If yes, go ahead and purchase the REDS recovery guide and sign up for my REDS recovery membership. If you need more support, one-on-one coaching, or medical attention, I can guide you in the steps to get that from me or elsewhere. So many more resources on REDS and REDS recovery to come. So stay tuned. Like, comment, follow, subscribe, share this with a friend who needs it. And I'll see you in the next video.